Hi, my name is Akiva Goldman. I'm the director and founder of Goldman & Associates. Our firm has a primary focus on family law issues here in Michigan. And today we're continuing our video series designed to educate and inform the public, so please subscribe to our channel. The issue of to stay or to go is always something that comes up in divorces. It comes up a lot, I think, because people are sort of used to the idea that they can't get along, so all of a sudden they're separating. And intrinsic in the idea of separation in the minds of some people is that we live in separate places too. Now, let's decide whether or not it's even a good idea to do that. I would say this: if two people are getting divorced and they simply don't get along and they don't have any children, so there's no reason why they have to be miserable all the time, and if they can afford it, I would say there's nothing wrong with somebody picking up and saying, you know what, I don't want there to be issues, I don't want things to escalate, I'm taking myself out of the situation, I'm going to take an apartment on the other side of town. There's nothing wrong with that. The court won't force you to do it, the court will not force you to do it, it's up to you to decide. Understand if you do it, you are taking on more expense, but in situations where both parties are working, let's say, and one can afford the rent at one place and one can afford the rent at the other place, it's very simple and very clean and it's not a problem. Where you get into a problem is where you're a one-income family and maybe there's children. A lot of times we'll have one of the spouses call up and say, well, I want him or her out of the house. We don't get along, we're fighting in front of the kids, I want him out. And they're shocked to learn that in most counties, particularly in the Tri-County area, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, in this area on the east side of the state, the court is rather reluctant to grant one person exclusive use of the marital home. So the absence like domestic violence or horrible drug use or some terrible thing that they're exposing the kids to, other than that, the court's likely to say, look, I appreciate that you don't get along, but you're both entitled to stay in the house, and there's no compelling reason to take on another set of bills. So the court's not going to do that. Now, I said on the east side of the state because on the west side of the state, in like the Grand Rapids and that area, we do see that the courts are more reluctant to grant one person exclusive use of the marital home. But it's a rarity, and you still have to establish that there's a basis for it. Now, if somebody's going to stay and someone's going to go, understand the implications. If a husband were to pick up and leave, he can do so, but if there's children involved, and he's picking up and leaving without the children, he's going to have to explain in some later custody battle why he left the children there. And if he's going to say, I want custody because my wife is nuts, all the more reason for him to be asked, if she's so nuts, how come you left your kids there? Maybe she's not so nuts. In other words, you've got to realize what the implications are going to be down the road should you choose to depart. Having said that, let's say you depart with the kids. You take the child and you go live in another place. Well, at least you can say, Your Honor, custody was in jeopardy. My ex is a terrible influence, so when I left, I took the child with me, of course, to save the child. Expect, though, when you do that, for an escalation of the litigation in that the other party, wanting to jockey for custody later on, is probably going to file a motion to ask the court to order you to bring the child back. In other words, you want to leave? Leave. But you want to take the child with you? So they can at least ask the court to intervene in that regard. Now, whether or not the court does or doesn't is a different story. But the point is the decision to leave or stay, and the decision to remain in the marital home during the divorce or to depart, it's a decision you've got to make. In most cases, if it's just a question of it being uncomfortable, the recommendation is going to be stay there because there's no point picking up another set of bills. But if you're in a situation, for example, where every time you have a fight, the wife calls the police on you, or every time a husband gets upset, he calls CPS, you might want to take yourself out of that risk, remove yourself from a risky situation, and you might want to depart. So every case is very fact specific. Now, if you have questions about your case, reach out and we'll be glad to help you out.